Well, first thing is we're not trying to connect to agree.
Right.
Because we're going in with the understanding that we come from two separate lifestyles,
Right.
two separate walks
Right.
with the Lord. And so we know that there's some things that she may have dealt with that can help me. There's things I deal with that can help her. But I'm not coming in as the know-it-all.
Right.
So I'm not fighting against whatever she's saying.
Rise from the ashes of everywhere that we go. I might be flashing, but you're alive. Yes, you're alive. You can rise as you're dusting off the ashes. Rise from the ashes. So everywhere that we go, I might be flashing, but you're alive. Yes, you're alive. You can rise as you're dusting off the ashes.
Hi, I'm Sandy Powell, and welcome to the Round Table. Now, I have a couple of ladies here that I'm delighted. They already have something going on that I am already peeping it, and I'm sure you all have peeped it too. And I have them here at the Round Table to talk with me about what's going on in our world. I have Evangelist Rashida and Apostle-elect Haynes, Veranica Haynes, here on the couch again. And this is not your first time.
No.
But I'm glad you brought a friend. I've been trying to get this young lady on the show for probably a year, and it's just panned out that we can be here, and I'm saying thank y'all for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Good, good. Our topic, I just want to jump in because I think it's just awesome. The reason why I asked you to here is because of what I see. I see a covenant relationship, and I see it strong, and I see it tight. And I know that that's a necessity in the kingdom to have covenant relationships. And so I want to talk about that with, what brought you all together as a covenant relationship.
Well, I met Apostle-elect last year. Well, 2017, I was doing a prayer clinic, and I asked her if I could use her church building. And she didn't know from 2017 up until the latter part of 2018, I had been watching her.
Okay.
So I watched her. I watched her ministry on Facebook every Sunday and the prophetic activation classes. And I also watched her husband, which is our overseer.
Right.
And I had been wanting to join her ministry, but more so I wanted to come under her as a spiritual daughter. And so I watched her for over a year. I saw that she was consecutive. Nothing changed about her. She was raw and uncut. She preached the word, not opinion. And so I just basically picked up the phone one day and just asked her, can I be a part of your mission? More so, will you be my spiritual mother and mentor?
Amen.
And she said, yeah, immediately. And so we've just been locked tight ever since.
Wow. Well, I don't see her turning anybody away. She's a mother in every way. She's a mother in the natural, and I can only imagine that she is the same in the spirit. And so when she called you, what were you thinking?
I was excited to have her to even think that much of me, because I'm not one of those type of people that feel like people should or have to, want to be connected to me.
Right.
It's an honor and a privilege.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Anytime somebody wants to be in your presence, it's an honor and a privilege.
It is.
And so when she initially asked, I was like, well, who would I be to say no?
Right.
Because she's like, will you have me? And I'm like, oh, yeah, will you have me?
Well, I think sometimes we don't really know what we're offering people. We don't know how people value us, and I think that's probably the humble side of you, is that you have to offer and you don't really know how much you have to offer. And so that's probably what she's looking at, but you're just saying, oh, I'm just Veronica.
Yeah, I'm just Veronica doing ministry.
Right.
Just running from the hood.
Well, you know what? I think you are able to go there as well as you can go in both ways, in both directions, and so she can see the versatility in you. She can see the wisdom in you, and she, like she said, she watched you for a year, so she wasn't spontaneous about it. She was, I'm sure, prayerful about it. You want to talk a little bit about that process?
One thing that really draw my spirit to hers is that she does street evangelism. And as an evangelist, a God-ordained evangelist, footwork is important to me.
Right.
And I saw how she would go out to the streets, and how on Macon Road she was doing the drive-by prayer.
Right.
And how she would do stuff to give clothes to the homeless, and how she was always doing footwork.
Right.
And, you know, and even at her status as a prophet and now apostle elect, she still did footwork.
Right.
And I think that's what so many people forget, that the work of an evangelism is mandated of all ministers. Okay?
It is.
It's the only title that you don't have to be certified for to do.
That's right.
And when I saw that she understood that,
Right.
you know, and me being an evangelist, I said I got to get to her.
Right.
And so, like I said, I watched her. I watched everything about her. And
Right.
she ain't afraid to go to the hood. You know,
She's
that's-
not.
Yeah, and that's one thing about me. I love going to the streets, the places that are normally forsaken, because we too important not to go. We got red bottoms now, so we can't go minister to the hood,
Right.
or we too afraid to go. And so
Or even this evangelist, that's not our area that we've been called
Exactly.
to. And, you know, there are different callings. in that.
Exactly,
Yeah, so-
exactly. And so I believe in going into the ugly parts of the earth, because someone had to go to the ugly parts to get me.
You better say
Yeah,
it.
I didn't come.
better
I didn't
say
come
it.
out the pulpit. I was at the bottom.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. You don't have to be in the hood to come out the ugly. See, I was in the ugly and not necessarily in the hood. Still was down dirty and it was grungy. And, you know, because sin is just like that. You can be living in a mansion, and I promise you, it can just be grungy. It don't have to be good. But yes, that your thought on that you saw and watched her from afar, you saw that this woman is doing what my heart desires to do as an evangelist, and you saw that I can be a part of this, and you jumped out there and say, will you be my, I saw you the other night, will you be my mommy?
Yeah, yeah. But not just that, she was doing what Jesus did.
Right.
And that's what I see lacking in leadership.
It is.
She was doing what Jesus did. And she's a female, but I see the anointing of the Apostle Paul on here. When I think about Mother Veranica and Kingdom Faith, I can't help but think about the Apostle Paul and the Church of Thessalonians, of Thessalonica. The church, the Thessalonians was already under great persecution.
Right.
And when the Apostle Paul went there, in spite of the persecution, he didn't run. He said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a church right here. Right here in the place where the saints are being persecuted. And so he said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave an altar right here. Because he understood that the best weapon against persecution is prayer, praise, and worship.
Yes, sir.
And that's what Mother Veronica, I really see the anointing of the Apostle Paul on here.
Yeah.
She built a church. And not only did she build a church in a city that has plenty of churches, but she built a church that people are actually remembering the poor, remembering the thugs, you know, and I have a heart for the stealers, the killers, and the drug dealers.
Right.
And she does too.
Right.
And so she's doing what Jesus did. And so I had to, no one else, you know, can be my umbrella but her.
Right. And I think that this is called kindred spirits. It's called like you have likeness and the same kind of, you know, history, so to speak, or maybe you all have some connection that's even greater than the spirit. It's just a natural connection. So when she calls you and says, okay, will you cover me? And then you finally get in your head, okay, I got something I can, you know, give her. You finally realize that. So where does it go from there?
Well, at the time when she asked me, I've been watching her too. You know, just some of her work, some of the things she was doing. I was covering her, praying for her, because I seen a heart that she had to do the work of God. And you know, when you see somebody really out there, really doing the work,
Right.
you know, it's really our job to keep them covered.
That's
You
right.
know, and you don't have to tell people that.
Right.
You don't have to let everybody know I'm praying for you. You know, so I didn't never tell her; she didn't know.
Right.
But I seen the work,
Right.
and I began immediately praying for her. So that's why I believe God said, okay, I'm going to connect y'all by the Spirit,
Amen.
because we didn't know each other naturally.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. As a matter of fact, the reason why I even reached out to her is because I was praying for her. But you see the difference in the outcome? You were praying for her, and I was praying for her. But it wasn't for her to be connected here. It was for her to be connected here. And so that's the thing about the body of Christ. We all have maybe differences, but we all are connected one to another. Her out doing the work, young woman. How old are you, by the way, if you don't mind telling? Do you tell your age? Okay. She's young.
saved.
She's young and saved, she said. Young and saved. Young and saved.
I'm saying.
But I can look at her face and see she's younger than us.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you that. I'm 56 and I know she way under that. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So it is our job as older women
Yeah.
to cover her.
Yeah.
And that's why I said the age we don't, because
Yeah.
she's a younger woman.
Yeah.
You know, and she may have gone through some, because I've heard your testimony, she's gone through some things, but there's still some wisdom that you could give to her, and vice versa, that I pray over her, that I know that she could be covered in the spirit. And then our phone call didn't pan out the way we thought it would pan out, but God had a plan.
Yes.
And so we are here now with spiritual mother and spiritual daughter
Yes.
in covenant relationship. Now I have to say this, we've seen this before. Covenant mother and covenant daughters that don't remember that they're covenant mother and covenant daughters. Now we've seen it. We in ministry, right? We've seen this. Tell me, because I know in my mind, I know how it gets broken, and I know how it should not end. You all won't always agree,
Right.
but you know what would need to take place in order for this to stay solid.
Well, first thing is we're not trying to connect to agree,
Right.
because we're going in with the understanding that we come from two separate lifestyles, two
Right.
separate walks
Right.
with the Lord, and so we know that there's some things that she may have dealt with that can help me. There's things I dealt with that can help her, but I'm not coming in as the know-it-all.
Right.
So I'm not fighting against whatever she say that I may not agree upon at the moment, because some things that we can disagree to agree. There's some things that just have to have some light on it for us to understand it. And so if she could bring that type of understanding to me from a younger perspective,
That's exactly right.
then I can look at that and say, not that it got to be my way. It's got to be this way. No, I can look at her and say, okay, let me begin to refocus on some things and see what you could teach me coming from this perspective.
Exactly right.
And so we learn from each other.
Exactly. And so I think that that's a point that I'm trying to make, is that somehow or another in these relationships, as let's just go from your perspective, as the mother in the relationship, that we get to the place where we feel like that our daughters have nothing to bring to the table,
Right.
and it's always a pour to them and not a share in ministry or in thought or in understanding. And when that moment happens, that you feel like she can't tell me anything,
Right.
those things get broken.
Right.
And I think that's
Absolutely.
how the relationships end up sometimes torn from the mother side of it, because we feel like they should always hear us and not us hear them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we can come to an agreement to learn from each other and respect each other's ministries.
Exactly.
So I have to respect her ministry. When she first started, she came off real strong, and I said, whoa, okay, but it didn't bother me,
Right.
because I come off strong sometimes too. So
This is the strong.
the strong yeah, so just watching and learning from her, I don't have that in me to feel that she's beneath me. I look at her as a team.
Right.
I'm a mother, but we still a team, because it's kind of like in the natural.
Right.
You have your children, and you all in one household, whatever, but you work together to make it work.
We do.
That's what family is about.
Exactly.
So our spiritual family should be no different.
Exactly. But what? Okay, I'm gonna give the daughter's perspective, then I'm gonna ask my why question. From a daughter's perspective, tell us how you think it gets jambalaya.
Well, I really sincerely and honestly think that pride has a lot to do with it.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'm this type of person. This is what I teach, because I do have a lot of younger people, millennials, in my ministry, as well as some older people. And my quote that's not in the Bible is that mama can say whatever she want to say. That's how I was raised. Then the Bible says, let the elders speak.
Right.
So, and I've become wise enough to understand that just because I don't agree with it, don't mean that it's wrong.
That's right.
And so, but humility says to Rashida, shut up and submit to your leader.
See?
And so that's why I try to teach younger people that it's okay to be humble. And you don't always have to win. There comes a time where you have to choose righteousness over being right. And so sometimes it's perfectly okay. But one thing that I've learned about leadership in ministry is that just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Right.
Okay, and it's either wrong or it's right. I'm this type of person. Unless leadership is telling me to do something illegal or against the word of God, I'm okay.
Submit.
I'm perfectly fine with
Right.
it, yeah. And then I just believe that if it's something that's not going to work out, okay, that's what prayer is for. And if I really believe in the God that I pray to keep me healed, delivered, and set free, I believe that he'll critique whatever it is that leadership has done wrong. And then if it falls apart, as a daughter, it's not my job to say, I told you, I was thinking it the whole time. It's my job to say, you know what, Mama, let's try it again. Let's see how we can do it this way. Let's go. Let's keep moving.
Critique
that
it
has
and
not
move
happened.
on to of
Right.
course. But you know that day will come, and my point is that when it's a covenant relationship, those differences should not bring about division.
It should not.
But we throw that word too easily, covenant. We say covenant, we covenant this, we covenant that. But the moment, like you said, pride set in or the know-it-all set in, then we are no longer covenant.
Right.
Yeah.
But when did that start? Like, when did God start the
I know.
pick up, put down covenants?
I know. I think that we just don't take it serious.
No, we don't.
We just don't take it serious. We don't understand. I think a lot of times we just don't have, it's a lack of understanding.
It is.
And a lot of people go into doing stuff because they've seen somebody else do it, or they've seen another ministry do it, and so they start to, the body of Christ start to mock, start to do what they see other people doing without the understanding.
Right. Or the anointing to do it. Because everybody thinks that because the hand is doing it, the foot can do it too.
Right.
In the body.
Right.
And we are just, I know we are just smart enough to have figured it out that the foot can't do what the hand do.
That's right.
The eye is the only part of us that can see. And be okay with leaning to the eye to see, as I be a hand or a foot that moves from what the eye see.
Right.
But we just can't do that. You're like, we have to mock it. We have to come back and duplicate it. That's why we don't have a food bank.
That's right.
We don't have a food bank. You know that, right? Word-Haynes, we don't have a food bank. Not because we don't believe in feeding the hungry.
Right.
No. There are ministries out there that's feeding. Why not just support what someone else is already doing in that area?
Be supportive.
And that way we don't have 30,000 food banks in the city, and maybe not have a center where people can come for other crises. We haven't learned how to be covenant in that way, and so when the time comes, I'm just delighted to know that you all have figured out that pride and the know-it-all spirit has no place to play in covenants. And so when you guys get to a point where, let's say, direction, how do y'all work out, like, what direction do we go, like in this area or that area? Have y'all, I'm sure you've come to different projects, and how do you all, in covenant relationship, how do you do that?
We actually had that. There was an issue that Mother was telling me I need to implement in a part of my ministry. And I was like, Mother, that's just not me. That's just not me. And she was like, well, daughter, this is why you need to do it this way. And so I was like, oh, no. I said, well, can I make a suggestion? She said, no, because you're not in agreement.
Right.
And the daughter in me knows when to shut up. And so I said, yes, ma'am. And that goes back again into humility. And also recognizing that she's been doing this far longer than I have been doing it.
Right,
And yes, she has wisdom, but she also have experience that I do not have.
Right, exactly.
We can ask God for wisdom. He'll give it to you. That's in the Bible. He give it to all men. But one thing he won't give you is experience. You have to earn that. Right. And one of the benefits of having a leader is that they have experience, okay? There's some mistakes that I can learn from her that I don't have to make.
Exactly.
And I believe that when you have a good leader, like Apostle-elect, I believe that she made certain mistakes that I wouldn't have to. Right. And so if I sit and submit and listen to what she's gone through, I won't have to make certain mistakes.
Exactly.
And, so,
and I think with covenant relationships, before that relationship is formed, there should be a level of trust that you have, that when she does speak something to you that you don't necessarily, I don't see it that way, you trust that she has the best interest at heart and that she is looking at the whole dynamic of the thing where you might be seeing it in a part way. And so you're good with that. Yes.
Yeah, because that's the purpose of me having her as my umbrella.
Say it.
You know, because and that's why I don't agree with all these young preachers that just doing their own thing, because we're messing up a lot of people.
We are.
And so I not only did I come to her because I was drawn to her, but I honor the wisdom that she had.
Right.
You know, and so I may have been doing things like this for 10, 15 years, you know. But now that I have an umbrella, and she say, daughter, do it this way, I'm going to do it this way.
Know better, do better.
Right.
See, when we first come out the gate, we may not have, and I think that you're right about young people who have been called into ministry. Sometimes we hear our calling, but we don't wait for our assignment. We hear our calling, but we don't necessarily wait for the development of that calling to be to full effect, so that we can be with the least amount of errors out there doing. You're just not going to do it without error. I don't care how, if you start at 1 or 100, you're going to have error in ministry. But with the least amount is when we take the time to be developed, and you never get it all.
You know, and let me say it this way too, from another perspective. You know, you have to thank God that you have someone willing to teach you, because there are people that allow you. I mean, they're about numbers, and they allow you to come up under the covering, and then really don't pour anything into you.
Say it.
Could be jealous, you know, because you're moving at a fast pace or you're doing something different from what they've been doing, and I've seen leaders silence their daughters, their sons. I see them silence them because they're so afraid of what's going to happen as they come forth.
I think it's a sad thing to birth something and never want to hear it speak. Do you understand?
That's good.
That to me is in the natural. Is an unnatural thing to birth a child and never want to hear that child speak. So when you have that happen, like we was just talking, Apostle, to me it is the spirit of jealousy, because that's in the natural too. You have mothers who are jealous of their daughters, fathers who are jealous of their sons, but it always diminishes what could be in that child.
Right.
It's always to the child's hurt. It's never really to the hurt of the adult. It's a hurt to the child, and what that child has to offer, we're missing out.
Right.
And a good parent, spiritual parent, is not afraid of that child to speak.
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm glad that you are good with that. You know, and that you allow her to spread her wings and soar. And you know, and you might say, okay, dip here, or you give her instructions on how to soar and get the best out of her wing glide, but you still allow her to do it. And you're right, it happens, and you know, you and I, we see it all the time. We see coverings that will not let their sons and daughters fly, and then we see also, can I flip it? Can I flip it? We see the ones where they should have set them down.
Right. Absolutely.
Clip their wings because they're making a mess out there.
Right.
We've seen that too, and that's still a lack of covering. You know, just because they are under your covering, they may be good tithers or good seeder to you. You just let them run them up.
Right.
You ever seen them churning out there in the natural?
Yes.
You know, they got everything in the world that they and they just let them run them up. And in the spirit realm, the same thing, because they have something to offer in a tangible way. They just let that child run amok, and in the meantime, like you said, inexperienced, no wisdom. And they're out there doing everything. They big enough, and I say this too, playing in the spirit with stuff that they don't even understand, and then wonder why things burst open in their life, and then the people around them, the way it do, and get hectic. So with the covenant relationship that you all have, as a mother speaking to your daughter, whenever you see her, let's say, if you saw her in that light, in the sense of this is not the way you ought to do it, can you explain to the audience, as a mother, from a mother's perspective, what is your purpose for her correction? What is your purpose for her to guide her? Like, because we have so many people watch that they, like your show that you guys do, they need answers.
They do.
They need wisdom. They go to church, but they don't have training. They don't have development.
Right.
You know, I say a church that doesn't have training and development, you will have ignorance running amok. So when you see something, and it doesn't have to be sin, it could just be error. What is your purpose for correction?
Well, one of the things that with her, she looks for the guidance, so that's real good. She would ask me, even after, like, I support her when she goes away, and you know, I travel with her, you know, and she would ask herself, you know, Mother, did you see anything that need to be corrected? Mother, did you see anything? She'll sometimes beat me to the punch.
That's a good one. now flip the coin and talk about that one that you can't hardly. Now, I'm not talking about Evangelist Rashida,
Right.
because we're talking to a wide range of people. But because some people think when you're teaching them and training them and developing them, that when you make correction, that's somehow a problem.
Right. And you have to correct. I mean, you can't have the good without the bad. You have to correct.
Right.
Discipline is very important. It helps you to be obedient. And so with one that I have had before,
I'm gonna take a sip.
but I have low tolerance for foolishness. I don't tap dance around. I'm not one of those type of spiritual mothers or natural mother that's going to spoil the child to the child end up in death because of things I have not taught or have not spoken or have not said or have not corrected.
Right.
I try to make sure that if I see, sense, feel anything that needs to be corrected, I'm going to do it on the spot.
That's right.
I'm not going to wait. It's not going to wait till next week or next month or give them a chance to keep making the same mistakes over and over again so that they can look bad and continue to make God look bad. And the first thing is we don't want God to look bad.
Right.
At all.
Right.
You know, so my correcting you is to get you in line with God. It's not so much about me. Because, see, I can look at you and then do my hand like this and go on.
Be done.
But I don't want you to make God look bad.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And at the same time, damage your ministry.
Right. Exactly.
So my correction is not to hurt you. It's to help you and to push you where you need to go. And yeah, there's some that, you know, get to the point where, you know, and it could be the natural too, where you get kids that feel like they're too grown to listen.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and mine is this, I'm not going to fight with you.
No.
But if you feel like you can't hear me or don't want to hear me, then there's other leaders out there that you might can go to that you can get a better understanding relationship with.
Most of the time we find that after we don't run into the wall a few times.
Right.
And realize that that is not your parents, be it natural, be it spirit, that is put up a wall, but God has put up a wall.
Right.
You just not gonna do this.
Right.
And so it gets stopped in the spot. But for some reason, sometimes we find those folk, I'm gonna say folk, that's the natural and spirit, that feel like, you know, especially when they got a call, that you just can't tell them
nothing.
You know, because I hear God. That's that Miriam spirit. You want to talk? I can see it. You want to say something?
I was just in agreement because